Welcome everybody to this presentation from Timo Kandra on prototype integration of BigBlueButton with Element Matrix Client. Timo had joined us actually at the last Developer Summit in Brazil and had worked on the integration, and this is sort of like an update on his progress. So Timo Kandra is working at Element on the mission to build a standard real-time communication based on the WebRTC for Matrix. Decentralized systems like Matrix are really interesting to Timo. He finds himself building infrastructure to allow independent collaboration. Very exciting for himself and others. Most interested to see the vision of using Matrix for more than just communication, like voice IP solutions can be built on top of it. And it's just phenomenal opportunities for collaboration and distributed collaboration with encrypted documents. And beside his work, Timo studied physics and is very interested in game development and 3D tooling. Timo, it's our pleasure to have you. The mic is over to you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for the introduction. So yeah, Fred already took it away. We talk about the collaboration between BigBlueButton and Element, where we made BigBlueButton work inside an Element client, which is a Matrix client. So to get the terms correct, Element, a company building a app for Matrix, and Matrix is a open standard. So literally just a protocol, not a specific application. So very similar to email, one could say. So let's jump right into the agenda. First, start about what is Matrix, just so everybody's on board what that actually means. And then we talk about how Matrix can be used for real-time communication. So what's the specifics there? How is it helpful, and how does it work? And then we get to the actual core part, how we managed to integrate BigBlueButton into Element. And we talk about it, we go a little bit into the technical details and see how it looks like. And then we talk about what's next. So this was a prototyping sprint, basically, taking a couple of shortcuts. And we talk about things which would need round up to really be a production-ready product. And of course, there will be a demo where we show how all this actually works and what it enables. So what is Matrix? That's the first question we want to jump into. One could think of Matrix as a federated database. So it's a protocol which defines how servers talk to each other and how servers talk to clients. And this little graph shows 3 servers. And very similar to email, or large organizations have such servers, matrix.org, for instance, or KDE or GNOME. And then people can use different clients, also doing the analogy to email, where you can have Outlook or Gmail or some Linux native client and connect to your server. So here we have somebody on Fractal, which is a node project for a Matrix client, and on Element, and people can talk to each other in a chat room. So let's look into how such a chat room looks like. The interesting thing here is that it's basically, that's also where this database analogy comes from. It's a 2-part thing. So one room can be distributed over multiple servers. And each server will then have a full copy of the room. So it makes it very similar to Git, where you also have a full copy on each client of Git, or of your Git repository. This is also how it works with Matrix. So whenever there is a net split, you can still write data into this room from your client, and there is an algorithm, so they will always converge. So at the end of the day, all servers will have the same tree of information. So that's why I visualize it here like this. So we have our Matrix room, which goes over to home servers. And inside the room, we still have a split into 2 data types, data structures. One is the state. And that really is just a key value data structure. So here we have a type. So the key is built out of the type and a custom key. Here it's just the type and some data. And here on the right-hand side, we have another state object, which is the type plus a custom key, which is user A in this case. And then you use this state for things that are always relevant. So for instance, for the room name, you want to connect to this room, you want to read out the room name from the key value store. And the other data type is the timeline, and that's just a 1-dimensional array, not a dictionary or key value based storage. And that is used for things like the chat history, where it's not really important to get all the history. You can still paginate back in this array, but it's not a instant access. You want this element with this key. So how can all this be used for real-time communication? So we just talked about the very core matrix foundations, having rooms. Rooms are distributed over multiple servers, can be as many as you want. There are rooms which are distributed over thousands and thousands of servers. And how can we now use this room to solve our communication issue or real-time communication issue? On the right-hand side, we have something which it looks very similar to what we had before. We have the matrix room distributed over the home servers, and we have two clients connected, one through home server B, one through home server A. And in this state, we can now see that there is a call member key for user A, and there's also user A, it should really be user B. So each of our users, or C in this case even, each of our users has their own member state event. And this way, they all know if they are connected or not connected and which SFU they use for the connection. So basically, from the room state, we can figure out what we are connected to. So here, this room state, that's why we have this dashed arrow here, points that this current ongoing call session is running on this SFU. And with Matrix RTC, you don't only have a home server, you always have a LiveKit SFU next to the home server. So that's how it's basically also providing lots of infrastructure, because lots of people already have home servers and they will host a LiveKit SFU next to it. So yeah, you can basically host your call application without caring about the backend, because that's all done by the Matrix community. And now that the state is defining which LiveKit SFU to use, it could also be the one from home server B, but in this case, they decided for home server A. Both clients can directly connect to the LiveKit SFU and then have the actual real-time WebRTC real-time communication. So to sum up, the room state is to communicate the call participation. Then we decide on which SFU to use through the room state. And this allows us to find and join and create a call in this federated matrix system. And the really cool thing is, to the core of Matrix, we also have encryption. Since it's federated, every home server has the whole room state. It's very important that the home server stores the room state but doesn't read from it. And that's why encryption was a thing from basically day one. And this, of course, also allows to have secure channels to everybody. And we can use this to also build encryption into our WebRTC streams here. And of course, we can use other matrix primitives for ringing, over push notification, and over the client side. So now, since we got how the matrix RTC or the real-time communication over matrix is working, we look into how we now integrate BigBlueButton in all this. And one of the most central pieces were just presented, and that is that BigBlueButton can also talk to a LiveKit SFU, because this makes the real-time streams themselves compatible. I mean, they are compatible because WebRTC is basically the same standard, but through LiveKit, it's even more, even some metadata is compatible. So for this, we need to explore another section or another topic of Matrix, and those are the so-called Matrix widgets. So basically here, we have a element client. So this presents a full Matrix client talking over an encrypted channel to the home server. And now we can have a widget, which is just a small web app running in that client that is very easy to develop because it's using an unencrypted communication channel, indicated by this little arrow here, to the client. And then the client is encrypting everything, sending it to the home server, and vice versa. So if there's a message coming into the room, the client is receiving it, decrypting it, and informing the widget. And widgets can then be used for simple add-on things, extending the client, like documents, whiteboards, shopping lists, or in our case, I go back. In our case, this will be the BigBlueButton widget. So I have this intermediate slide where we just do a little remembering how Matrix RTC worked. So we had clients, They were connected to the matrix room for the metadata and to the SFU for the actual communication. So BigBlueButton needs to talk to the SFU and the matrix room state. And this is how we solve this. So BigBlueButton is inside this widget. So it talks to element and then to the matrix room for all the metadata, encryption keys, and those kind of things. And then it gets from this widget wrapper, gets all the information stored in room state, which SFU to use, how to authenticate with that SFU. And there's a little bit of additional work going on. I don't want to go in detail there, but the SFU will do a little check if the user is actually a proper matrix user. So it will also talk to the home server, and it's a little bit more complicated, but all this can happen through the element client. And then the BigBlueButton app just gets a token and a URL for the SFU and connects to it like a normal SFU, like it would do with its own SFU anyways. And you can see there's an additional indirection. So we have the BigBlueButton widget wrapper, which is something we developed. And that is doing all the custom things, talking to Element Web over the widget API, and also doing all the authentication and the token generation, where BigBlueButton basically just forwards the information about to start a call, to end a call, and which SFU to use. So this is what it looks like then in production. We have Element, or Element has in general a call button, and then you can just choose the BigBlueButton call from the list, and you will see a BigBlueButton stream or BigBlueButton app. But this will be covered much more in detail during the demo. Before we start the demo, we will talk about the pieces which we'll optimize and improve and which are still open to actually make this like really, really good. And one of them is that we have this indirection. We have Element Web, then we have the widget wrapper doing the communication to Element, and then we have BigBlueButton inside the widget wrapper as another container. And this could be simplified. BigBlueButton could speak directly to the matrix host client, and then this would just look like this. So BigBlueButton would do the thing of getting the token for the SFU and telling Element, oh, I joined. Can you set this state event into the room because you need to inform the others that I'm currently in a session there. And the other step would be that currently rely on Element as the host client. So Element is still doing the encryption and the actual communication with the home server. And it would be possible to use a very, very simple matrix widget container here. So it basically is also a full matrix client, does the communication with the home server. It just doesn't have the user interface and all the additional features Element provides. So it would look like a standalone single page application BigBlueButton app, but in the background, it would also connect to a matrix server and sync with that matrix server. So basically this widget container replaces Element Web, everything else is the same. And then we could of course combine those two things and just have a widget container and the BigBlueButton app. And that would allow BigBlueButton to be matrix RTC compatible without Element. And that would be super nice because then we have this scenario. So BigBlueButton runs without Element, BigBlueButton connects directly to a matrix room and directly communicates to the SFU. And this would allow things like in your BigBlueButton conference, like right here where we are, we could just invite a matrix user ID, which could be thought of as an email address or a phone number. And this user would have a phone. This phone would ring and they could just join here and listen to us. Just with a very simple mobile user interface, but it's better than no connection. And for instance, if somebody is on their biking home, then can connect to the BigBlueButton session, they could pick up with their phone and their Bluetooth headphones, listen to the call until they're home. So it's basically the matrix ID here becomes very similar to a SIP phone number bridge. So that would be one of the use cases. And of course, then you could use any mobile first client like Element X or other clients which support matrix RTC. So the main takeaway here is that BigBlueButton can be a matrix RTC client and therefore can federate. And you could have situations where one institution has their own BigBlueButton instance and the other one has their own BigBlueButton instance. And people can invite each other and they still can be in one call, even though there are different hosts for the BigBlueButton instance. Cool. So we now reach the point for the demo. Exactly. So for this demo, what I'll show is this matrix room. So it's just, so basically we're looking at element now, and this is a matrix room. So it's a
Timo?
room.
I'm
Yes.
going to pause. Will you be able to share your screen?
Of course. Oh, I'm so glad you interrupted me there. I really didn't think about it, but this is of course super important. Now the screen share is working, right?
Yes.
Cool, perfect. Thanks for the confirmation. So this is what I was showing you guys. Element, just a web app in this case to communicate to matrix. So I can write hi here and it will send a message. And since I'm in this room with multiple clients, I also get a notification. And Frederick's also here, so he can also say hi. And what we can do here now is click the call button and click BigBlueButton call. And what is now happening is that the widget wrapper is starting. The widget wrapper is doing the authentication. Now BigBlueButton is starting, and it's asking me to give access to my microphone. I mute myself here, and we are in a BigBlueButton call in Element, which is super cool. So we have all the features of BigBlueButton, like the whiteboard, and still all the features of Matrix where you can write messages. So just to make this demo a little bit more interesting, I turn on my camera and, oh, we can see Frederick is here. And you guys don't know, but Frederick is actually joining with Element in this case. So he isn't running BigBlueButton. And to make this a little bit more clear, I'm also on my phone here. And this is the same room. So we can see, I don't know if everybody can see it, but it's the same room, same chat history. Oh, and there's also Paulo, also joining from Element. And I can press the join button here on my phone. And since the phone can also talk Matrix RTC, we end up with a very complicated call where I'm on BigBlueButton here, Frederick is on Element, I'm on Element X on my phone, and it's all interoperable. And any other Matrix client, so let's say Fractal or FluffyChat, or probably you're not too familiar with the different Matrix clients, they all will be able to join in the session. And yeah, this is what this empowers, that we have interoperable calls through BigBlueButton and Element. Wonderful. So I'll leave this call here now. Bye-bye. And go back to the presentation. So thank you so much for listening, and I will be free for questions now. So go ahead.
Timo, that was great. That was a banger of a demo too. That was inception. We had BigBlueButton sharing screen, showing matrix, joined into BigBlueButton, running inside of Element or showing Element. Really cool. So let me start with the first question. There's a lot of stuff that's done. Would you say that all the work that we've done so far, the prototype, is convincing that this is possible to use now? It's possible to use it inside of Element, but there's still some work left to be done. Maybe talk a little bit about what that work is left to be done and maybe how much effort that would be, just in broad strokes.
Sure. So basically, the 2 points I raised in the end, like making BigBlueButton directly talk to Matrix and making BigBlueButton also as a standalone application Matrix RTC compatible, they will be super nice to have, but they are more in the refactoring cleanup phase. But by itself, it's basically a working system. So it's still a little bit hard to host. So those would be the big task, making it all a little bit easier to host, combine a couple of services, integrate the JWT token service and the widget hosting into BigBlueButton, for instance, and also clean up the, oh nice, and also clean up the clean up the structure. So BigBlueButton directly talks to Element, and it's always super hard to do any estimations, but it definitely would be more than a couple of weeks, but it also wouldn't be like impossible to reach, because we are basically already there. I mean, the demo was a working demo. It's just a matter of how clean and sophisticated the whole infrastructure should be.
Awesome.
Yes. There's also a question in the chat now. I think I can just take this over then, right?
Yeah.
So Jan is asking that the matrix widget are not spec'd yet, and that is 100% true. So they are used in situations, but they are not spec'd. So matrix is trying to not be a too modular system. So whenever something is in the spec, every client has to support it. And for widget, that is not the case. So widgets are still used in a couple of clients, or mostly Element X and Element Web, or parts of the widget at least in Element X. But they are not part of the spec, so not every other client supports it. And the second part is there an SDK, or could we somehow implement this also in other clients? So for widgets, there is, of course, always the widget API bits you have to write. That could totally be done. Basically, this was one of my projects doing the beginning of this in Element X. So that's definitely a possible thing. But for things like Fluffy Chat or Family, which is the proprietary app from this company, they just did a matrix RTC without a widget. So basically, you can already have a Fluffy Chat and BigBlueButton interoperable call. It's just not possible to have it to have BigBlueButton inside Fluffy Chat. And just see Frederick's message of the dream is real, and that is actually true. So basically, when we heard about the interest of BigBlueButton to have this joint effort, we at the VoIP team at Element were like, oh, this would be such an amazing achievement if we can have BigBlueButton interoperate with Element Call. And we didn't really believe that it's so doable. So yeah, this actually, like when we made it work, this definitely was a dream is real moment. Somebody's raising their hands.
Yes.
Isaac.
And actually, before we're going to come up to the end of the time, I just want to make one plug. If you are using Element and Matrix at your organization, and you would like to see this work get into the core of Element, please reach out to Timo or myself. We are looking for covering the last bit, and it's always helpful to have some educational organizations or commercial companies or customers pull through the work. So we are building it with the belief that this is possible. It is. And if you would like to help out or are interested to use this at your organization, please don't hesitate to reach out. I'll put my email there in the chat, and let's just move back to Timo's contact information as well. All right, and I think there was a question, or someone raised their hand. Okay, Abutu? It is possible. I'm not sure that's a statement or a question. Yes, it's possible. Reimer.
Yes, it's currently we have only one API key in BigBlueButton, and so this means also always a big if you want to share it to multiple other servers, I don't like this that there are no options to configure it for what it can be used. So do you plan to extend this somehow so that there are kind of functions based on the API key, or have many keys with different roles or something like this?
I'll take a first shot. And Timo, I think at the back end, actually, there is this proxy that is proxying the BigBlueButton server. And so behind the scenes, yes, the BigBlueButton server only has one API key, but the authentication is all handled upstream. And maybe Timo, if I'm correct, maybe expand on it.
Yeah, so there are definitely two parts which are which need to be distributed or federated, and one of them is the LiveKit stuff, which is actually doing all the video transportation. But the other one is, of course, also the BigBlueButton session, which has the chat, like the BigBlueButton chat and the whiteboard and so on and so forth in it. And I'm not entirely sure where, like which service and which feature works with which dependency. But that definitely also, like if you want this to also federate, I mean, it always is possible to just decide on one of the BigBlueButton servers, similar how we do it with the LiveKit, and then just use this for one session. And then, yes, people from other domains could also join on the same BigBlueButton server. But to really make this federate, this will be an entirely different project, so that we have two LiveKit servers and databases running and they interoperate. So I think the solution here would be very similar to what we do with LiveKit. Use the matrix room state, which federates and always converges to decide which BigBlueButton database server basically to use or backend server to use, and then create the session there. And then use the same algorithm for LiveKit to also find which LiveKit server to use.
All right, Timo, we'll stop recording, but thank you again for the presentation and all the work. This is really awesome.
Well, yeah, thanks for having me. It was really exciting to work on this, and also, of course, exciting to present the outcome. Bye, everyone.